This is Jayne Turk, and we are at Interpersonal Communication, and this is the How to Do the Important Online Class Stuff conversation. Join with me as we talk about the nuts and bolts, and this probably is going to be a video that you're going to want to look back again down the road and see if there are things that you want to remember how to do again. But also remember, if you're having any questions or struggling, reach out to me. I can help you do it. I can walk you through it. Easy peasy. Let's start with the simulation journals. The simulation journals are, you're going to find the directions for them in the syllabus. I'm going to talk about them in the video. We're going to be writing in them almost every week, not quite, but almost every week. And so I'll remind you to do that. And the simulation journal is a reflection on what you've learned, usually in the process of writing your discussion board post, comes at the end of the week. Usually there will be a moment in the video I'll say you're going to write about this in your simulation journal, and I'll explain how to do that. For instance, in this particular example, I asked you to the discussion board post to write 3 separate posts, things that you're proud of accomplishing. We'll talk about that. We'll use that as an example. So you're going to do that discussion board post, and then I'm going to give you some time to think about it, go back and see what your classmates wrote, and really reflect on it. And in this particular case, you're going to watch a second video that explains to you the self-concept cycle. You can find the simulation journal entry areas in Canvas. You've got to scroll way down past the week's worth of all of your podcasts that you're going to be watching and listening to, into the mini assignments, chapter notes, and simulation journals area. Click on the simulation journal, and it's going to take you to this page. This page is one of 3 places you can find directions on how to do these assignments. So this gives you the directions, but most importantly, gives you the link to the Google Doc. In the Google Doc, you're going to get in there and you're going to be going through this. However, I also want to point out that if you want to do this on paper, the paper is included in your packet. If you want to print that up, or if you just want to do it on regular paper, that's fine. At the end of the semester, you can take photos of it and upload it, or you can show it to me. We can make sure that you get credit for it. We're just going to be following this really quick and easy format. If you go into Google, you're going to see the top part of the page, and it's going to encourage you. You're going to select File, make a copy, because everybody needs their own copy, and then save it as your name, Sim Journal. You're eventually going to share it with me. You can do that right now, or you can wait till the end of the semester to do it. Either way, just make sure that you do eventually share it with me so you can get those grades. And then the way that you're going to do it. Again, you're going to have the directions for the activity. Those will happen in the videos. And so after you've done the activity, you're going to go to your simulation journal and you're going to reflect on it. This is the meta communication part of the class. So that first column tells you that you're going to be doing the introductions, bragging, and it asks you to put in the date. And these won't necessarily go in order because sometimes I switch it up. You're going to put in the date that you did the simulation journal. And then the next column, you're going to answer, was a technique effective? Why or why not? In the final column, you're going to answer the question, what do you need to remember the next time you're in a situation where you could or should be using this skill? And then you're going to answer yes or no, is this skill integrated? I'm not grading you on your answers to these questions, just that you're reflectively answering them. A big part of this class is I'm going to be teaching you skills, and I want you to practice them and then think about them. Is this a thing that you can keep doing? That's where the simulation journal helps you to reflect on that. For chapter notes, it's basically going to be the same process. I highlighted that where that occurs in the syllabus as well. It tells you what chapters we're working on. Yes, you can work ahead. And basically, not every week, but almost every week, we're going to be reading a chapter. Again, go to the same place in Canvas, scroll down there to the mini assignments area, and you're going to see where it says chapter notes, and you're going to click on that. And again, it's going to give you a landing page that gives you a link to the Google document. It also gives you the directions on how to do chapter notes. So you're going to go into the Google Doc. Again, it gives you the directions, so they're in all of the places, so you don't have to keep switching back and forth between screens. The directions are every place that you are. So you're going to be writing 2 chapter notes for every assigned chapter in the book. And this gives you the details on how to do it. And I'll just give you the shortcut as we go to the next one. In the Google Docs, you're going to be doing the chapter number, the chapter title, and in the first chapter that we're going to take a look at, the name of the chapter is A First Look, Why We Communicate. In the box below, you're going to write a definition or an explanation of the topic. You're going to write what's significant about the topic. And significance is the question that you need to be asking yourselves all the time as college students. Why does this matter to me? And you want to be thinking everything you're learning. Why does this matter to me? How can I use it? And then you're going to look at the steps or the elements that make up that part of it. Now, you do not need to write one of these for every part of the book. You're going to choose the parts of each chapter that you want to write about. And so they can be just a little tiny area of the chapter. And on the next couple slides, I'm going to give you an example. But just choose an area that you want to learn more about in the chapter of the book. I do want to say, yes, you are assigned to read the entire chapter. All I'm grading you on, though, is if you have read enough to get the 2 chapter notes done and make sure that that happens. My hope is that you're going to find that once you start reading the book that you actually are intrigued and you're interested and you like it. Of all the books I've ever had as a student and as a teacher, this is by far my favorite textbook. I do hope that you are engaged with it and learning from it. So I pulled out some screenshots of this chapter 1, and I started with the header, and you'll find in whatever version of the book you're using, in print or online, that they have big bold print for the most important topics. And if you can look for a big bold print area that's got some smaller but also big and bold print underneath it, that's the easy cheat way to do chapter notes. The topic of this chapter would be why we communicate. And if you look down to, usually it's the last sentence in that first paragraph, it says we all need to communicate. And exactly what you write in there is the explanation or the definition area. And then underneath that is the significance. Why is it significant to you? And I would say because communication is the heart of everything we do and everything we are. The next area of it, and this is the meat of your chapter notes, are the steps or the elements. And in this case, there are these 4 elements that you can see by the big bold print. In your chapter notes, you could simply write down those 4 elements and call it good. However, if there's an element that you write down there that you don't understand, you should give it more definition. Let me explain. The steps or elements column is going to have social needs, practical goal, physical needs, and identity needs. And you might go, okay, I get social needs. Duh. I even get practical goals, whether it's, getting someone to pass me the salt at dinner, or it is getting my friends to go with me to the movies. And I need to arrange them, make sure that we're all there at the same time. Physical needs, you might not know what that's about. You might need to read a little bit more and discover that, wow, people actually die without communication. We need it for all of the things that we need to survive. And identity needs has to do with how we feel about ourselves and how we perceive ourselves and how the world. Again, if you need to write a little bit more than those 4 bullet points, always feel free. Just as a reminder, though, whatever part of whatever chapter you're doing, make sure you get all of the elements that are part of that subpoint in the chapter. Make sure that they're all in there. This is what it's going to look like. And the simulation journal entries, if you want to write this on paper, you are welcome to do that. And the blank forms are available in those first day packets. So you're going to write the title, topic. You're going to write that. I did not mean to click there. Where it says here, chapter title, you're going to write First Look, Why We Communicate, just as I showed you in the last slide. In the box below, you're going to write something like, I'll need to communicate, and it matters to me because communication is the foundation of all relationships. That's my definition for significance. You get to choose what you want to write. And then those are the 4 bullet points. Again, if you don't need to write more details on the bullet points because you know what they mean, awesome. Move right along. But if one of your bullet points was ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, and you're like, those are big words, I don't know what they mean, then make sure that you've done a little bit more reading in that area of the textbook. And once you've done one, you're going to do one more. And again, doing the 2 of them should take you about 5 minutes. It's going to take you longer to read the chapter. Do give yourself time to do that. This is a really good book, and it's pretty easy to read. I do want to say, as a college professor, one of the things that we struggle with is getting you to read, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing videos for this class, because I didn't want to give you more reading to do. And unfortunately, textbook writers don't make that easier. Chapter 1 in virtually every textbook for every subject you'll ever read sucks. So don't get too bogged down in chapter 1. Wait till you get to chapter 2 when you start getting into the real meat of the chapter. But let's be honest, you've all had classes where you're required to have a book and you didn't buy the book. Or you bought it and you didn't open it. Or you bought it, you opened it, you read chapter 1, and you never read any more. Or you bought it, you opened it, you read chapter 1, and maybe a little bit more, and then the book disappeared to the back of your car to live underneath the McDonald's wrappers for the rest of the semester. But here's the thing. In a college class, we have way more content than we're going to cover in the videos, way more content that we could cover in a physical class discussion if you were in a physical classroom. So you really need to make sure that you're doing the reading, and hopefully you're going to like this book enough that it'll be easy for you to read at least the 2 little bits you need to read to get chapter notes written. And again, you're assigned the whole chapter. I hope that you read it all, and I hope that you like it. For recap, every week you're going to have a video on the discussion board. You're going to watch the video. You're going to read. You're going to write 2 chapter notes almost every week. You're going to do the discussion board stuff. You're going to write in your simulation journal almost every week. And then at the end of the semester, you'll be submitting the simulation journals and the chapter notes. And that's how this online class is going to be done. That's how you're going to get the A+. I'm super excited to have you with me on the journey this semester. If this seems scary or overwhelming, please, we can set up a Zoom call. I can walk you through it. I can help you do the first couple and make sure that you're on the right path. Please reach out to me. I want you to be successful in this course. Hope you have a great semester. Thank you for being here. Bye.